Hello, this is Daniel Crawford, and you are listening to the Inequality Chronicles, becoming kind of a, unintentional podcast, but do not get used to that, because I do plan on going back to video soon. This will be about 10 minutes long. I'm watching the timer on this phone as I attempt to record this show. But I'm going to get into a little bit of a brief analysis, if you will, of what was night 2 of the Republican National Convention, as well as anticipating what will be featured tonight in night 3. First, I want to just remark on something here that has become kind of a distraction, as per usual, with in the media pertaining to this whole convention. While these people on the other side, to use a nicer word than what I wanted to say, while they do stuff like attack Hillary Clinton and attack Democrats and even spout off, sort of insane things like Dr. Carson's remarks about Hillary somehow, whether directly or indirectly, being some kind of worshiper of Satan in some way. While you have all this stuff that's going on there, as well as some other legitimate issues that should be covered surrounding both this convention and the election as a whole, the media and social media even seem to be very much distracted by the plagiarism accusations directed towards Melania Trump, as well as, I guess even slightly, Donald Trump Jr. And I'm not going to get into the plagiarism issue. I've read enough about it. It's small potatoes compared to what is at stake here in the bigger picture. And, everyone really has to get a handle of this thing. The reality is that they are far from the first people speaking either as or on behalf of someone running for office, to plagiarize. I'm not exactly defending it, but it is not the last time that we are going to see this. Definitely not the first time, and it's definitely not the last time either. So, these are distractions, okay? That's all they are. This is the most important election that any of us are likely to see in our lifetimes. And perhaps even the most important election in the history of this country, when you consider the crossroads at which we stand right now. And we are going to allow ourselves, if even just for a moment, to be distracted by whether or not these two Trump relatives plagiarize someone else's speech or a song or what have you. It does not matter in the bigger picture, because their words are relative nonsense anyway. But would you not agree? You want to talk about something else that's bigger. Let's talk about the vice presidential nominee on the Republican side, who will be speaking tonight, Mike Pence. Just learned today that apparently, as Donald Trump was looking around for a running mate, one of the first people he reached out to was our governor here in Ohio, John Kasich. He reached out to one of his, top advisors and made him an offer they thought that Kasich couldn't refuse, to be the most, quote-unquote, powerful vice president in American history. The most powerful vice president in history. Now, you're probably asking, just like this advisor of Kasich's asked, how is that so? What do you mean by the most powerful vice president in history? Put things into context. Remember how powerful Dick Cheney was, at the in that position. He was. Everyone always argued the whole time that he was really the one who was in control of the White House, and not George W. Bush, as Mr. Bush was always on vacation, or just almost had no clue as to what was going on, it seemed, Dick Cheney more or less ran the country for 8 years. So when we look at it, you try to put that into perspective. Think about it. What do you mean the most powerful vice president in history? How do you get to that point? And I believe this was according to the report I read on Huffington Post. Donald Trump Jr., I believe that's the one who was reaching out, made the comment of, well, you'll be basically, Governor Kasich will basically be in control of foreign and domestic policy, while Donald Trump will be making America great again. Whatever the hell that means. So think about that. Put that into perspective here. He was effectively offering John Kasich, or whoever the running mate is, which we now know is Mike Pence, to become the de facto president of the United States, while Donald Trump more or less takes credit for everything that goes on good in the country. Everything that is perceived to be good, at least. So he would be the symbolic president, whereas Pence would effectively be the actual active president. Just do a little bit of research into Mike Pence's record when it comes to working class issues of inequality, just issues of discrimination, if you will. Look into his record in Indiana, to just sort of get a feel for what kind of active or de facto president he would be. Just take a look. Mike Pence is one of these Republican governors from across the country who has lashed out at the movement for LGBT equality. He signed that controversial bill into law in the state of Indiana, trying to put significant limits on them. And you can guarantee that in a Trump-Pence administration, or you could say a Pence administration, that we would be turning back the clock on the cause for equality in that respect. But let's remember that no matter if Pence had been the choice or not, all of the options that Trump was pondering have been anti-worker in every way, shape, or form. So that should be the real story, is what are they going to do for the economy? Remember this. Mike Pence has also been on record of saying this in one respect or another, but remember that Trump has said that not only do we not need to raise the minimum wage above its pathetic federal standard of $7.25 an hour, he also thinks it's too high. Do you think that making $7.25 an hour is too much? That's what Donald Trump thinks. Of course, it's definitely not enough for his back pocket, but he's Donald Trump. He's the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity. Don't you know? So that should be taken into consideration when pondering this election, and pondering this convention. Notice what they're not talking about. They're not talking about inequality. And if they are mentioning it, and I think I did hear some people make at least a reference to it in one respect or another, they're not talking about genuine measures to address it. It's just not being done. They're ignoring the solutions to inequality overall. And sadly, in some respects, it's a deceptive way, but their platform somewhat makes them more progressive than the Democratic platform, at least on the stance against the TPP. We'll talk about that further in another edition. How about this before we close? And I'll probably even talk about this in the next edition here. There are some buzz about who Hillary Clinton is considering for her running mate. All of the options that the media has reported on so far, at least right now, are Tim Kaine and Tom Vilsack. Do some research on those. That's it for today. I'll update you all later. Good night.